time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live on Monday, May 4th, 2020. Sorry, I had some tech problems. Might need to buy another computer, I'm starting to realize, to do all the things we need to do technologically. Hint, hint, GoFundMe. Oh, there you are. I might need to get a desktop computer because apparently the laptop isn't faring too well when I need to use OBS and other things to go live. So I kindly ask, for those who have a couple bucks today, please drop it in the GoFundMe. If you don't, we totally understand. Times are tough. But if you do, I would, by my math, if the 100 or so people 150 people watching right now, if all of you dropped $5 in the GoFundMe, we would just demolish the 99,000 mark, and then we could get our eyes on 100,000 raised. So hopefully, if you got a couple bucks, Jen will drop it in the super chat, the GoFundMe link. It is a super chat too, so you're more than welcome to go and leave a contribution there. We are starting to lose members, unfortunately. Coronavirus is a nasty, nasty thing for everybody. Obviously, people are losing jobs, so I'm not going to complain so much about membership. But because we're losing members, that's why we reinstated our GoFundMe. Of course, if you do have a couple bucks a month, sign up as a member, statuscoup.com/join. Make sure you smash the like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream. Jen and I are actively trying to get this text list growing. We are being suppressed like nobody's business, so we have to get creative, and that means sending direct text messages to you when we are live, which we did today, and I think the last few live streams. But you got to work with us, so please, if you haven't, text 370-370 and type in COUP. That's 370-370. Type in COUP. That will add you to our text list, and you will get an alert when we send out a text for our live streams, which are also getting very expensive to do. So hopefully you guys can support us like you have been. We really appreciate it. Deadhead, happy birthday. Appreciate it. You tuning in on your birthday. We got almost 200 people watching, so keep pressing that like button. 200 people watching, 111 of you have pressed that like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream. Got a good interview today with David Sirota. He was a Bernie campaign advisor, speechwriter for Bernie. I think, he was cast as this pariah for the crime of posting C-SPAN clips on Twitter of previous things Joe Biden said as a senator. So I spoke with David about he just broke a big story on Amazon, also getting some insight into where the Bernie campaign went wrong, and more importantly, what's the way forward in his mind. So we spoke for about a half hour, so we'll have that for you in a couple minutes. And hopefully, if you didn't see our show yesterday, we went live yesterday, had some great interviews, one in particular with a leader from Navajo Nation. Navajo Nation is getting hit really, really hard by coronavirus. So hopefully, if you haven't seen it, we posted we cut it up into two parts because it was about 40 minutes long. So definitely check out the first part and spread these videos. You know, I know that it's a pain in the butt, but if you can, let the ad run a little so that we get some revenue for our videos, and press the share button on all the videos you watch. Share it to your Twitter, Facebook, whatever, because we need all the help we can get right now while we can't go in the field and cover anything. So before I get to David, I got to tell you the truth. I think what we're seeing right now is what I've been telling you for the last, 5 years since I've had an audience. We don't live in a country. We live in the United Corporations of America. It's disgusting. We're about to hit 70,000 deaths in America from COVID-19. We just had, I believe on Thursday, the deadliest day we've had. You know, I know some people are making arguments. Jordan, don't shut down the whole country because a few states have high concentrations of COVID. I explained yesterday why this isn't just an isolated few states, and every state affects the entire nation, even states that have lower COVID-19 positive cases. So I'm not going to re-explain it, but what's amazing to me is as we just had the highest positive rate, and now projections from Trump's own administration are citing that the daily death toll will reach 3,000 a day by June 1st, so like less than a month from now, that the cases, originally they said 70,000 people were going to die in America. Now they are basically doubling that to 130,000 people may die as far as projections. And I was just watching Sanjay Gupta on CNN. He says he thinks 130,000 deaths is setting it too low. I don't know. I understand the economic pain out there, but I don't understand why any governors would be reopening societies and reopening states. It's a nice buzzword. It's a nice sentiment to get back to normal. To tell you the truth, I'm feeling a little down. I'm sure you're feeling a little down. I'm out of what keeps me mentally healthy besides just, my wonderful girlfriend and friends and family, which I haven't been able to see, is breaking up the monotony. Like, I like traveling. I like covering things in the field. That's what gives me life. I can't do that right now. So that's kind of put me in a rut because I'm basically in the apartment constantly. Could be worse, obviously. I'm not dead, thank God, and a lot of people are dying. But I'm looking at these projections. Thank you, Eugene Debs, a hero, by the way, Eugene Debs. $10 in the super chat. Keep it coming on the super chat. And it's madness. As soon as they start reopening, and they're already doing it, the beaches, the parks, barbers, hair salons, restaurants, you could socially distance till you're blue in the face. This is a highly deadly virus that is not even close to being under control. And you're going to reopen society? The reason it's so insane is twofold. Number one, more people are going to die than could have been saved by this. And number two, it's actually going to keep the economy closed longer. Thank you, Lady Hawk, $4.99. Thank you, Jordan, for sharing the story from Navajo Nation yesterday. Indigenous Americans don't get enough coverage. Feel better and stay safe. I completely agree. And to tell you the truth, thank you. We just got our first GoFundMe donations of the day. Thank you, Andrea Paperno, $25. Thank you, Alex, $5. We are now $450 away from hitting $99,000. And by the way, $5 is the minimum on GoFundMe. Every $5 counts. So thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andrea, for the 25. I know everybody is very tight with money right now. Obviously, if you got laid off, we don't expect you to be funding us in any way. If you got a couple bucks, we really appreciate it. This is not just, this is not right now for us to go out in the field. This is for us to keep the lights on, to be honest, because we are losing most of our opportunities to gain revenue Most of our growth comes when we're reporting in the field, which we obviously can't do right now. So, and I agree, Lady Hawk. And by the way, I do want to go when it's safe. I want to go to Navajo Nation and cover the after effects of COVID, as well as the other stories that have never been covered really in depth on Navajo Nation. Poverty, lack of water, lack of electricity, obviously the environmental battles. So that's high up on our list to go out and cover. So why this is insane is these projections are that it's going to double to 130,000 Americans dead. CNN's expert says that's too low. And you are now basically giving the green light for people to congregate. 25 to 30% of the cases are asymptomatic. So you have asymptomatic people going out there because human psychology, I don't want to be cramped up anymore. And their willingness to take that risk is going to affect me, you, if you're not willing to take that risk. Because my girlfriend and I, we have to go to the supermarket. We went yesterday. We were wearing masks. We want to walk every day because mentally you can't be in the apartment constantly. But what's incredible is this notion of reopening the economy. By doing this, by doing what they're doing, you're going to end up closing the economy again because we're just going to be back to where we started. You're going to have such an increase of cases. This is not my opinion. This is just the course of the virus. You're going to have such an influx of cases that you're going to have governors doing stay-at-home orders again. You might have Trump, depending on what his poll numbers are, might do stay-at-home orders again. Use the influx and the increase in positive cases to say it's too risky right now to choose a new leader. Kind of what Bush did in 2004. You know, we can't re-elect John Kerry right now. We're at war. And Trump is saying we're at war against the invisible enemy. By the way, we got 280 people watching right now. I need every single person watching. Please press that thumbs up button. It's right under the live stream. We need another 100 of you to press the like button. Makes a big difference in how many people are going to see this. Holy cow, the GoFundMes are now rolling. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anonymous, $30. Another anonymous, $20. We are now just, what is that? I guess $385 away. No, I can't do math. Yes, $385 away. Kelly Elaine, $5. Lawrence Johnson, $10. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. And even though we can't travel in the field, we're going to continue doing the interviews with, people from Navajo Nation. I'm trying to get an interview with a black professor from Rutgers University on the just insanely different standards going on right now for black people than white people. If you've seen on Twitter, police in New York are handing out masks to white people that aren't wearing masks and socially distancing. For black people, they're putting them down on the floor and literally burying them with their knees into their throats. So I hope she gets back to us. We're also going to try to get some interviews with some other people you might like. So we're trying. And Jen, we're going to have Jen start doing some more investigative stuff. Looking into some stories that no one else, I believe, is looking into. So keep it coming on GoFundMe. So with all of this madness, I need to ask, why, again, I don't want to make this about Bernie or be bashing Bernie, because it's not just Bernie, but we have progressives putting forth strong legislation, but we don't have progressives organizing the troops for this legislation. Right now, it feels like we have progressives tweeting of what should be. Bernie, Ro Khanna. We have progressives doing live streams like Bernie, AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Tlaib, but they're not exercising their power, and I'll tell you why. Ro Khanna and Bernie Sanders put forth a $75 billion bill for emergency manufacturing of PPE COVID-19 testing. Quote, it's been 3 months, but somehow the Trump administration continues to drag its feet in ramping up the production of critical testing and protective equipment that our healthcare industry are begging for. Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna on Monday introduced legislation to ensure healthcare providers have enough medical equipment and COVID-19 tests, demanding that the federal government dramatically step up its response to the coronavirus pandemic rather than focusing on getting people back to work as soon as possible. The Emergency Medical Supplies Procurement Act would dedicate $75 billion to the effort, allowing the government to purchase or manufacture supplies including N95 respirators, surgical gowns, ventilators, testing kits, and other badly needed medical equipment, as well as vaccines and treatments for COVID-19. Bernie tweeted, "There is no excuse for medical workers in the richest country on earth to lack masks, gloves, gowns, and tests. If Trump won't act, Congress must. Ro Khanna and I are introducing legislation to rapidly manufacture all the medical equipment we need." So, no criticism of the bill. It's a good bill. My criticism is, what about the rest? We know Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota put forth a bill that would cancel rent and mortgage payments for the duration of the crisis. The congressional rescue bill suspended evictions for federally backed rentals. Though some building owners are not following the law, a number of cities and states have also imposed eviction moratoriums. And thousands of private businesses, landlords, real estate investors, banks, housing trusts, are working out provisions to cut or delay tenants and mortgage holders' bills. Canceling rent, radical though it sounds, would help low-income families keep their head above water, stabilizing the housing market and reducing the depth of the recession. Congresswoman Omar's bill is co-sponsored in the House by AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Pramila Jayapal, Mark Pocan, Veronica Escobar, Jesus Chuy Garcia, and Grace Meng. But just putting forth bills, just putting forth tweets is not enough right now. Obviously, we know Bernie Sanders and AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and Ro Khanna, if they ran the country, if they had the majority, if Bernie were president, these things would be already happening. But I don't know where the Bernie Sanders is that shamed Jeff Bezos into doing the right thing, because the same principle is there. Bernie Sanders and activists did not get Jeff Bezos to raise the minimum wage at Amazon through asking nicely, just by tweeting about it. They did it by constant, repetitive shaming. They did it by digital, social media, in-person protests, and constant, repetitive shaming. Now, I totally get it. Bernie Sanders has been running for president for the last 5 years. I could totally understand if he's a little tired and he wants to leave it to the new generation to do the damn thing. Bernie, I get it. And by the way, thank you for the GoFundMe. Timothy, $27. Anonymous, $20. So we are now at 98,662. I feel it or not, I think we can get to 99,000 today. And we haven't even gotten to the David Sirota interview, which I think was really good. So I want to know, and I asked David Sirota about this, which you'll see. Bernie rightly criticized President Obama for getting into the White House. I mean, there's plenty to criticize Obama about. Getting into the White House and leaving his army, his digital army, his volunteer army at the altar. He left his massive email list. He left his massive organization, his massive volunteers, the young people that he had organized and inspired. He left them at the altar to allow Citigroup and Wall Street and Rahm Emanuel to run things. I'm not comparing Bernie to Obama, and Bernie's not president, obviously, but he's not utilizing or rallying his troops to demand action right now. And frankly, yes, to shame not just Trump, but Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Where is the pressure from Bernie on Speaker Pelosi? And it's not just Bernie, AOC, Ro Khanna, Rashida Tlaib. Have we learned nothing from the 2020 election and the 2016 election? This playing footsie and being diplomatic with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Tom Perez is a bridge to nowhere. It is a bridge to nowhere. And Nancy Pelosi is spending more time showcasing her fancy gourmet freezer filled with chocolate ice cream than calling for an immediate moratorium on rent. I'm not talking about a moratorium where we're freezing rent, and then when the coronavirus is declared over, okay, then you got to pay it back all in one lump sum. No. I'm calling on canceling rent. You cancel rent, you cancel mortgages. That takes the onus and the shoe off of workers' throats, not just renters and not just mortgage holders, but mortgage issuers. You know, landlords aren't bad people, most of them. They have mortgages to pay too. Spectrum 86, $5. More stories about Amazon and food processor plants. Thank you, Jordan. We'll do our best. We'll do our best. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. And Hank Moultrie, $5. Jordan, you need to watch the video with the two top physicians in California by the CDC and WHO data cover has 0.1% fatality rate. All right, Hank, I love all of you. And I'm not going to, I got in trouble yesterday for calling people I disagree with idiots, so I'm not going to do that today. But to the Corona truthers, I know you're watching. To the Corona truthers who say you don't need to wear a mask, who say they're inflating the death count, who I have people literally telling me these body bags are that you're seeing are fake. This is not the channel for you. I am one big outside the box thinker. But I can tell you, they're not inflating the numbers. This is real. I was wearing a mask when I went out and I got coronavirus, which it's not totally out of my system. I'm still coughing here and there. So I understand that this has become a bit of a culture war for a lot of people, even good people, and not just the batshit Alex Jones viewers. But this is real. The numbers are not inflated. You have to wear a mask, and frankly, if you're not wearing an N95 mask, it's not guaranteed that a mask is even going to protect you. So we're probably, if you're going to keep repeating this stupidity over and over in our chat, Jen's probably going to swipe you with the trash. Just keeping it real. We're not a dictatorship here, but I do like intellectual integrity. If you have actual data and evidence to indicate that maybe something is awry, I'd like to hear it. But I could tell you, I live about 8 to 10 blocks from a hospital. We hear ambulances all day long. Do we not hear that ambulance all day long? When I was in my room quarantining with coronavirus, all I saw was ambulances all day long. So I don't think they're making it up. And by you suggesting it's inflated or it's not real, it's kind of on par. It's kind of on par with like the Newtown truthers to me. So I appreciate the super chat, but I'm just going to tell you, this is not the place for those conspiracy theories, because it's not all conspiracy theories are wacky. Many conspiracy theories are true, but this is real. People are dying. So that's all I could say. So because to me, progressives have the right idea here, but there's no oomph. There's no oomph behind the ideas. There's no oomph behind the legislation that Bernie and Ro Khanna have put forward, that Pramila Jayapal and Ilhan Omar and AOC have put forward. Obviously, we're not in the majority. It's probably not going to pass. But Bernie has shown the way. Activists have shown the way. Sunrise Movement has shown the way. Justice Democrats, which we're going to get to Justice Democrats, who's now creating a super PAC, not okay with that, Justice Democrats. And if you are going to be creating a super PAC, Justice Democrats, then I don't want the justice you're selling. Just keeping it real. Have to be consistent. And it's a shame, too, because I guarantee you that Justice Democrats, if they are launching a super PAC, that the majority of Justice Democrat candidates are not interested in that and not okay with that and are going to be brandished as frauds because of what executives at Justice Democrats are doing. So I hope it's not true, but by all reports, it is true that they filed for a super PAC. I reached out to the spokesperson before I went live, and they didn't get back to me, so we'll see. Robert Copeland, $5. As a member of Sacramento Tenants, let me say that there are a lot of landlords who are slumlords who don't care about the tenants. Oh, of course, absolutely. And by the way, we got 330 people watching. 238 of you have pressed the like button. I need another 100 people. Please, please press that thumbs up button. Makes a big difference. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hala, if I'm pronouncing it right, for $25 in the GoFundMe. Thank you, Torleif, $10. We are now at $98,697. $303 to go till we hit 99,000. I got 99 problems, but a billionaire ain't one. And I wish I could take credit for that, but somebody put that in the super chat yesterday. So we are, maybe when we get to 99,000, I'll do a little rap and tweet it out. 99,000 problems, but a billionaire ain't one, because we don't have any billionaire money. So, before I get to the David Sirota interview, I just want to say, Bernie, I know you're tired. I'm not going after you like Jimmy is and some others that I love them, but I wouldn't go that far. But where is the urgency here? Where is the shaming of Nancy Pelosi? Where is the shaming of Joe Biden? Frankly, why are progressives not demanding that our Democratic nominee, who I just covered yesterday, I've never seen a more shameless, coordinated super PAC to basically smear and just tarnish the name of a woman who has a credible allegation that he still doesn't have a legitimate answer for. I've said from the start, I don't know if she's telling the truth. I don't know if she's not telling the truth. I wasn't there. You weren't there. I'm taking the political glasses off, and I'm just looking at it like a journalist. He has holes in his story. I went through them yesterday in our live stream, and the smears and the shaming of Tara Reade, and now the death threats from what she's saying to her and her daughter. This is the kind of shit that Republicans did with Christine Blasey Ford, but these faux Me Too resistors on the Democrat side, like Alyssa Milano and others, they're revealing themselves to have never even given a damn about Me Too by the way they're treating Tara Reade. But I digress. So all I'll say, and Victory, I get it. Victory says not everything is up to Bernie. Of course not everything is up to Bernie. That's why I think in some ways Jimmy has been a little unfair to Bernie. But what I will say is, we've already seen, for progressives, one way to get what we want is to publicly shame very, very wealthy people and people who want to preserve power. You think, again, Jeff Bezos didn't do the right thing because he's a good guy. Disney didn't do the right thing and raise the minimum wage for workers because the executive, the CEO, is a good guy. Okay? Same thing with other companies that are starting to do the right thing because of the coordinated, consistent, day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year activism of the Fight for 15, the Medicare for All, Green New Deal, Bernie. So I don't understand why Bernie, as the leader currently, until that baton is passed on, isn't shaming through social media, through press conferences, even if they're at his home, all of them. I understand he made, an agreement with Biden. I understand he is under this fairy tale that the Democratic platform and what it says means something. It doesn't. But he actually has power. The progressive movement, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, all of these people have power. You want to know why? Because you have more people, more potential people to be behind you than you did before. Right now, you have more than just your own team behind you. You have neoliberals who might have voted for Joe Biden who are out of work right now. You think they want to hear from Nancy Pelosi? The answer is expanding COBRA. You even have conservatives out of work right now that want more urgent things done. So there is a vast wealth of people that we could gravitate to our side for this pressure campaign. No, it should not be in-person protests right now because public health comes before protests right now. And I'm sorry, I explained this yesterday. Your constitutional right to free speech is not universal. There's certain things you cannot do, and I would add congregate during a deadly pandemic without socially distancing or wearing masks. If you think that makes me an authoritarian, then okay. But your right to act like an idiot does not come before my right to live. So that's what I think. So I'd love to know what you guys think. Leave it in the super chat. Is Bernie doing enough? I don't think so. I know he's only one person, but you have this, the DNC has been begging Bernie Sanders for his email list. Okay? Other candidates have been begging Bernie Sanders for his email list. People not just on his email list, but progressives, Americans right now are looking for anything to latch onto right now to just make it through the month. People, if you start now on May 4th, you can build on the local rent strike efforts that are going on, because there are local rent strike efforts going on right now. With the leadership of Bernie, with the leadership of AOC, with the leadership of Rashida Tlaib, Pramila Jayapal, Mark Pocan, Ro Khanna, whoever else wants to get involved. Now we're actually seeing corporate leadership. We saw a vice president from Amazon step down today, citing the company is essentially putting its workers at risk for Jeff Bezos' own profit. This is the time to speak truth to power. And I can't just be a Bernie bro here. I got to call him out. I don't know where the urgency is. Tweeting to cancel rent, Bernie, is not enough. You have more power than that, and you know it. And I don't know why you're not using it. AOC, I am sorry, but playing footsie and trying to establish relationships with Nancy Pelosi, to borrow from my BFF, Sarah Palin, is a bridge to nowhere. Actually, it's a bridge to a ditch. Michelle Collins, $30 in the super chat. Can Bernie win if he unsuspended his campaign? No, I don't think so. I wish. I don't think so. Unless something major happens with Biden, a health issue, he drops out. But I think the cake is baked for Biden right now, unless they airlift Andrew Cuomo or Amy Klobuchar or one of these people in. Thank you. $5 from Anonymous, $25 from Anonymous. We are now at $98,727. Holy cow, that is I'm so bad at math. $278 away. $278 away from hitting $99,000. Can we get it? Okay. Keep contributing while we play the David Sirota interview. We really, really appreciate it. We got 400 people watching right now. We got 285 of you have pressed that like button. I just want to remind you guys, if you came to this late, please, 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 this does not cost you anything. Please join our text list. Text 370-370 and type in COUP. We're getting to the point where we don't have a choice. We have to text every time we're live. We were trying not to do that because each time we text costs us quite a lot of money. But YouTube is throttling us to the point where I would say if we have 78,000 subscribers, 20% of our subscribers get a notification. So that's why we're trying to build our text list. It's costing us money to do it, but you can't build a channel if people don't know when you're live and people don't know when you post videos. So help us out. It doesn't cost you anything. Just text 370-370, type in COUP. Some of the issues that I'm talking about now, I asked David Sirota about, so we'll get to that. Here is my interview with David Sirota. And again, please, please, please press that like button. It's a thumbs up button right under the live stream. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by David Sirota. He was senior advisor, speechwriter for the Bernie Sanders campaign, and now, fortunately, is back on the journalism trail, breaking a lot of important stories that more well-resourced outlets aren't touching. Thanks for joining me, David. So let's get right to Amazon, because you broke a story that kind of in this culture that we're just numb to corruption is kind of like not on front pages, but should be. What did you learn about Amazon and what their shareholders were going to do that their lobbyists then got squashed?
Well, so a group of Amazon shareholders at the end of 2019 began pushing a resolution that would have required executives, if it passed, it would have required executives to put forward a detailed plan to protect the health and safety of workers in Amazon warehouses and to respect explicitly workers' right to collectively bargain, form unions, and the like. Amazon almost immediately began opposing the shareholder resolution and taking a step further, not just opposing the resolution, but also trying to make sure it never actually even got voted on by their entire shareholder universe. So they went to the SEC And they asked the Trump administration's Securities and Exchange Commission essentially for permission to block the resolution from being put on their shareholder proxy, the document at their meeting in which all shareholders end up voting. So they basically weren't just saying we're against this resolution, but we don't even want to allow our shareholders to even have a public vote on it. And you can understand why from their perspective. I mean, it's a potentially embarrassing public spectacle for them to have their shareholders debating and then voting on a resolution essentially forcing their executives to better respect workers. The Trump administration, in the middle of the pandemic, in late March, came back to Amazon and approved Amazon blocking a vote on this shareholder resolution. So again, the takeaway is that when you look back now, you see that Amazon didn't want to have a debate and a discussion and a vote about a plan to better protect workers' health and safety. And the Trump administration, in the middle of a pandemic where Amazon workers are saying they are not being kept safe at work, Trump's SEC agreed to help Amazon and block a vote on that resolution in the middle of this disaster.
For the layman, why would Trump or anybody else's SEC get involved with inner Amazon board or shareholder, whether they had a resolution to vote on or not?
So this is a pretty standard corporate practice. It's called a request for a no action letter. And what companies typically do is if they don't want to have a debate on a shareholder resolution, they go to the SEC and they say, we want a letter from you, or at least an assurance from you, the SEC, that you will not hold us accountable or punish us for blocking a vote on this or that resolution. They're looking for a essentially legal cover so that if shareholders come back and say, we're going to sue you for blocking this resolution, the company can say, well, look, we got SEC blessing over here, so we're all fine and good. Now, it's not a binding blessing. A court could still rule that it's outrageous, but that almost never, ever happens. In other words, if you get the SEC's approval to do this, typically that's as far as it goes, and it's over. So the SEC, is in a very powerful role to essentially help companies block their own shareholders from influencing the decisions of the management of the companies that those shareholders actually own.
And just like maybe this isn't something you would know, but I mean, it doesn't seem to me like Jeff Bezos is your classic screw workers, while on the other breath, I'm giving $20 million to a charity, or I'm opening a children's hospital wing or whatever for appearances that he's doing good. But I mean, I'm getting DMs all the time from Amazon workers. I've interviewed a few whistleblowers during this pandemic. How expensive would it really be for him to insure PPE? I mean, for him, the world's richest man, the N95 masks, gloves, proper cleaning, compared to the money he gives away to charity. I mean, Robert Kraft, another billionaire who is not on the same level as Jeff Bezos, he flew his plane to China and brought back a lot of PPE for Massachusetts hospitals. Some of that got fed to New York. I mean, what is this about? Is this just the corporate culture of not wanting to move an inch for workers?
I mean, I don't know the exact cost estimates. What I can say is we know that Jeff Bezos' own net worth has increased by $24 billion reportedly since the beginning of this crisis. We know that Amazon is doing more business than ever. I mean, we know all those things. I think it's probably a mix of many things. I think it's a mix of, one, that corporations don't like to spend a lot of money on protecting their workers. Workers are treated as expendable and disposable, and especially at companies that don't have unions that can actually have a better, more strength to fight for those workers' rights. Workers get mistreated, and by the way, I think that's why you've seen Amazon be so hostile to the prospect of unionization. They don't want to have to deal with collective bargaining. I also think that Amazon's entire apparatus is so giant, it's so sprawling, that it's entirely possible that part of this is that the Amazon's management doesn't really have full and complete control and wherewithal to actually secure such a massive set of facilities. In other words, they're running something that's so giant that it's almost, in some ways, unmanageable, or at least not manageable in a way that this pandemic potentially requires. So never underestimate both the cost motive and greed, but also the just this day-to-day incompetence and mismanagement.
Right. And just today, actually, or yesterday, a VP of Amazon resigned, citing all these whistleblowers that Amazon is trying to threaten, intimidate, which kind of goes to the broader thing you were talking about. They will do whatever they can to squash any type of labor movement against them.
Absolutely. And look, the central part of the resolution that we were talking about had explicit language about that Amazon will recognize the right of workers to form unions and to collectively bargain. Amazon, now, for its part, it has said, look, we've already put in place a statement of human rights principles in which we basically vaguely say that we support workers, and if workers want to form a union, and actually in that statement they say if workers don't want to form a union, we will respect that choice. But clearly, the proponents of the shareholder resolution made the case to the SEC that, look, the statement that Amazon has on its website versus what we're pushing, because Amazon was saying, look, the resolution is redundant, so we don't need it. That's why we don't want to put it on our ballot. And the proponents of the resolution were saying, actually, Amazon's statement doesn't say anything, doesn't obligate it to support workers' collective bargaining rights, and it does not obligate the company to actually put forward a detailed plan about how it will respect workers' health, safety, and union rights. I mean, there's a difference between saying having, something on your website that says we respect workers, and on the one hand, and then on the other hand, having an actual detailed plan for here is what will happen if a union election happens. Here is what we will do. Here is what we will not do. Here's how we will clean our facilities. Here's how we will protect workers from accidents. Here's how we will protect workers from the pandemic. There's a difference between having a statement on your website and having a detailed plan. And clearly, Amazon, in its posture on this resolution, doesn't want to have to make ironclad, detailed commitments for what it will and will not do. It wants to stay in the vague because staying in that vague world allows them the wiggle room to do whatever they want.
Right. And I wanted to shift gears. Biden and Warren came out with kind of this joint op-ed. A lot of, I don't know, sounds like a lot of progressive rhetoric about reining in the bailouts and more oversight, but neither of them, including mainstream Democrats, seemed to have a problem when the bailouts were happening, actually talking about why are we bailing out these corporations that don't need it. So there's rhetoric about the oversight, but you've done a lot of great reporting in the past exposing tax cut schemes and, these types of crises, money getting funneled to corporations, things like that. Is this talk about oversight of the bailout just kind of progressive lip service?
Well, I think looked at in the moment, the bailouts passed, here's where we are now. I think there does need to be a push for real oversight. I think if you take the longer view and you say, look, Trump and the Republicans and Mitch McConnell put down a bill into the Congress that was a giant slush fund for corporations, where the amount of money going to large corporations was huge, and the amount of money going just directly to workers was relatively comparatively small, that's a problem and that's unacceptable. And you look at it in the long view and you ask, why did the Democrats in Congress just go along with it? That is a very fair question. And I mean, I specifically would ask that of Democratic senators, but also in particular, House Democrats. I mean, House Democrats literally control the House. So it's one thing to be a senator, and I'm not absolving these senators, but it's one thing to be a senator and say, look, I can't stop a moving train. I can sort of try to slow things down, but ultimately the Republicans control the Senate. Fine. The House Democrats had to pass that bill. They had and have leverage. They refused to use that leverage. They literally voice voted through that giant bailout bill. They rolled over. And I think it is a very fair set of questions to ask, why did you roll over, and how can you now cast aspersions effectively on the legislation that only a few weeks ago you yourselves voice voted through. It wasn't like it's a secret what was in that legislation. Everyone knew what was in that legislation. And so I think it's not unfair for people to ask, is there some kind of kabuki theater going on here? Is this all just kabuki theater where the Democrats, put out press releases, say they're mad, say they are opposed to Trump, then roll over, and then after, and pass the bill, and then after the bill passes, they say, we need oversight. How dare this bill or this provision in the bill do this or that, this and that. I mean, it's not illogical to ask the question, like, is this all just a game? Is this all just theater? And I think the problem is that the more the Democrats behave like that, just speaking electorally, not even on the merits of the policy, the more the Democrats behave like that, the more disaffection they sow, the more demoralization they sow for people who are paying attention. Now, granted, maybe not everyone's paying attention, but ultimately, I think everyone will be paying attention when the benefits of a $2 or $4 trillion bill don't ultimately flow to regular working people. Mm-hmm. Maybe people haven't followed the exact details of each legislative machination, but 3, 4, 5 months from now, when people know that Congress passed a multi-trillion-dollar bill and people don't feel like any of the resources got to them, working people, then I think people will say, this all feels like theater. I was told that there was going to be a rescue package, and I don't feel rescued.
Right. And I just want to shift to the campaign. And by the way, I think if there's ever going to be an award for Gaslit Victim of the Year, it should go to you. I've never seen more unnecessary and just undeserved venom for somebody posting C-SPAN videos. So kudos to you for taking that. I know that there's a lot of crap you dealt with, as well as your family. So I don't want to get into the nitpicking about the campaign because I think it's easy for people to play Monday morning quarterback. A lot of the people now calling Bernie, a coward and a sellout and this nonsense. They didn't seem to be saying that when he was on 60 Minutes as the front runner and everybody thought, about to win. So definitely there were mistakes, but people thought the campaign was doing well. The main thing that I noticed, and you've spoken about, is it seemed like Bernie Sanders fundamentally, you used the phrase contrast, but it really seems to me that Bernie Sanders had in his mind that the main way to be victorious is to win on your ideas and proposals rather than prove that the other guy or gal is, not telling you the truth or flawed. It seemed like he had this kind of, in my view, a slightly naive but, hopeful thing where we're going to win on the ideas but not discredit the other person. I mean, case in point, you don't have to get into internal campaign stuff, but I don't know many other campaigns that would have sat on and not run ads in South Carolina about Biden, frankly, making up major parts of his civil rights record. There were reports that you, Nita Turner, others were urging the senator to take the gloves off a little more. Can progressives really win that way, just proposing the ideas and organizing, or do you really have to, at a certain point, I think contrast is a nice word for it, but treat Democrats during the primaries similar to how we go after Republicans?
Well, I would say this, the history of Democratic Party primaries is a history of candidates really contrasting with each other in very, at times, harsh ways. And I'm one of the people who doesn't think that's a bad thing. I think primaries are where you are supposed to have that vigorous exchange, where you're supposed to be clear on what the differences really are. There's a way to do that in very intense terms without them being personal. I think that, and we've seen the success of that in this sense. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton had a knockdown, drag-out primary, and I think that ended up strengthening Barack Obama for the general election. I think that was a good thing. I mean, Democratic primaries, I reject the idea that coronations are good for the Democratic Party. I think that vigorous primaries strengthen general election nominees. I don't buy the idea that vigorous primaries weaken general election nominees. They battle test potential nominees. They allow the party to really vet the candidates. I think we've just gone through a primary where there was much less vetting, much less battle testing than there really has ever been in modern American politics in the Democratic Party. And now the Democratic Party has a relatively unvetted, unchallenged nominee. And I think that you're seeing now the potential downsides of that. Joe Biden, I think, most people would probably agree hasn't run, at least not yet, the most vigorous general election candidacy. Now, granted, there's a lot of things going. There's the coronavirus situation that makes it harder to campaign, but I think there are legitimate questions about, is he the best nominee that the Democrats could have put forward? And I think that the primary, there were certain times where there was a contrast, but there were other times where the contrast wasn't as sharp. And I think that has left the Democrats with an somewhat unchallenged, somewhat unvetted nominee. I would also say to your question about whether progressives can win without doing real contrast, it is my view that if you are running an anti-establishment campaign, you must make the campaign a referendum on the establishment. You must make the campaign a referendum on the establishment candidate. You can do that without being personal, without being, salacious, without being super negative. It is not negative to say somebody voted for the Iraq War, I didn't vote for the Iraq War, and I disagree, and this is a big difference that means something to voters. That is not negative. That is called democracy. Voters deserve to know what the stakes are, what the choices are, what the records are when they go to the polls and cast their votes. So I think that progressives delude themselves into thinking that they can nice their way to power, that if you are going to be trying to take power from the establishment is not just going to give over that power. You are going to have to actually take that power. And part of taking that power means being very explicit and being willing to contrast with opponents about the power of that establishment that you are taking power from.
And I also think there's a misconception because, obviously Trump was full of it, but in 2016, he named names, right? He called them puppets. He named the donors. There's this thought that the Democratic Party base would think that's too rough and wouldn't appeal to that, but I don't really think so because there was some crossover between, I was on the campaign trail. A lot of Trump voters said, if not Trump, they like Bernie. So I think Democratic voters, not in such obnoxious way like Trump did it, but I didn't hear Bernie, for example, talk that much about, well, Joe, why'd you tell your Wall Street donors that nothing's going to change? And you're having fundraiser after fundraiser with a who's who of, Wall Street and big finance and things like that. I understand there's old rules of the Senate and Biden was nice to him and his wife, but at a certain point, you're either running against him or he's your friend.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to second guess Bernie's specific tactics and his decisions. He has a way that he campaigns, and that's been his way. And frankly, it's been successful for many, many years. Yes, it's true. I was pushing the campaign to do more contrast. I'm not, that's not a secret. Every campaign has, people disagreeing and pushing forward ideas, and other ideas rise to the surface and they don't. That is I've been worked on 8 campaigns. That happens on every single campaign. I would say the lesson going forward, though, is that the model of trying to make nice with the establishment at one level, sort of rhetorically, not on policy, because I don't think anybody can say that Bernie Sanders sold out on policy or sold out his values at all. I just wholly reject that. But there's a tactical question. The tactical question of, can you sort of rhetorically be nice to the establishment and also hope to seize power from that establishment from the outside? Can you have one foot on the outside and one toe on the inside? And I think that this election, one of the strategic takeaways is you probably can't. You probably can't do that. That if you're going to win a primary, you're going to have to actually take power. Now, I want to go back to the 2008 campaign because I think that's instructive. Barack Obama, I do not think did not represent an anti-establishment agenda. In a real sense. Rhetorically, and to be clear, in 2008, he campaigned on a much more progressive agenda than he actually governed with. That's a whole separate discussion. But I don't think he was ever perceived to be an existential threat to the power of the establishment that runs both parties. Frankly, I don't think he would dispute that. I had an interview with him in 2006 where he said he's not a revolutionary. He's essentially a reformer. So, but the point is that he was still a threat to at least one part of the establishment, the Clinton wing of the Democratic Party, which had a lot of power. And he had to run a highly and intensely contrastive campaign in order to have a chance to win. And he wasn't even representing the kind of existential threat to the establishment that Bernie Sanders was. And I think the takeaway from that, and the takeaway from the 2020 campaign that we just discussed adds to the argument that if you're going to run as a genuinely anti-establishment candidate, you must be contrasting every single minute of every single day, and you must be taking every opportunity to make clear in the minds of voters what the primary choice really is all about. And that if you don't do that, you may ruffle fewer feathers, but you may be making it harder for yourself to actually seize power from an establishment that doesn't want to give you that power.
Right. Two quick questions before we go. One, there was criticism among progressives that when Obama was elected as president, he left his organizing army, at the altar. He didn't tap into that massive list he had, and Citigroup basically, picked his cabinet, and we know the rest. Bernie's been doing live streams during coronavirus. I think he's doing another one with Congresswoman Jayapal and some others. So that's definitely been helpful as far as keeping people connected. But do you think that he should be kind of enlisting that army? There is, I think, a growing appetite for things like rent strikes, moratoriums on mortgages, things like that. Or do you think he's using his time best kind of negotiating with Biden's campaign? Seems like he's still invested in making that platform at the convention as progressive as possible. Can he do both? Just seems like he's not really doing the former with utilizing his list for actions.
Yeah, I think that in general, Bernie has said that one of the things that he thought Obama, and he laid the blame, if I'm remembering correctly, he laid part of the blame at Obama's feet. But he basically said, Obama, when he got elected in 2008, Bernie took issue with Obama sort of shutting down the grassroots movement behind the Obama candidacy and not using it as a pressure system on Congress when Obama was president. And I think what Bernie does right now with his list and what actions he should be taking and where his focus should be, to me, the bigger question is, how do we prepare for, hopefully, the defeat of Donald Trump and then the next president having a pressure system on them so that we do not replicate what happened after 2008. After 2008, Obama came in and I think a large segment of the Democratic voting population said, hey, we fixed our problems, we succeeded, and great, we can all chill out now. If Joe Biden or whoever the nominee ends up being wins the presidency, on day one of their presidency, there need to be demands, there needs to be pressure, there does not need to be deference. That's the key. The establishment will want deference. And I think all of the forward-looking activism right now, beyond this short-term emergency that we're facing, which is very real, but the longer-term activism, part of it needs to have a focus on the effort to make sure that pressure system exists in a real way, that accountability system exists in a real way the moment the next Democratic president assumes office.
And lastly, I think you're doing something interesting as far as media. Matt Taibbi has gone out kind of as a individual agent. You have this newsletter that I think you're bringing on some other independent journalists. I think this is important because I've seen through Status Quo's efforts, even when you break massive stories, sometimes it's harder just to get the media to pick it up than actually breaking the information. Can you tell the audience about what you're trying to do with your newsletter, possibly expanding, and whether this is kind of what independent journalists should be doing, particularly investigative journalists rather than commentators, kind of instead of getting into big outlets, going out individually and asking for consumers to support it?
Yeah, I've been a journalist at major media organizations. I've been an independent journalist. So I've been in a lot of roles in media. And it's my view, by the way, just on a purely sustainability level, that readers need to pitch in if they want independent journalism. Because if there is not a grassroots, it's kind of like campaigns, right? You can choose. You can either have big donors funding your campaign, and the big donors want certain things, and they expect certain things, and the money comes with strings attached, or you can have a grassroots funding model, where lots of people contribute relatively small amounts of money, certainly compared to the big donors, and that funding base creates true independence among political candidates. It's the same thing for journalism. I think that if you can build a grassroots funding base for journalism, you're more likely to get independent journalism that doesn't have to fear the retribution of large donors who are oftentimes billionaires or corporate connected and the like. And so my newsletter, which people can find at my website, is davidsirota.com. My newsletter is basically relying on grassroots funding to continue the investigative journalism that I was doing before I joined the Bernie Sanders campaign, and that I'm going to be doing now after the Bernie Sanders campaign. And look, the idea in the newsletter is basically what I've been doing for a long time. I mean, it's investigating money in politics. It's looking at the power of lobbying, looking essentially at the power of corporations and the rich to control our democracy. I mean, I've been writing about that and reporting on that for many, many years at this point, and I've been really happy with the support that's been out there for it. I've actually been surprised that people have been really willing to pitch in a way that has allowed us to now add a journalist, Andrew Perez, who's great. And I really hope that we can expand this, because look, Matt Taibbi said, he left Rolling Stone. I mean, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, look, the future of media in this environment is going to almost certainly have to be where readers and the audience as a whole pitches in a little bit to help make the journalism they want be sustainable. And that's the hope here, and that's the goal.
Great. I really appreciate it. I actually don't consume that much media because I think most of it is trash, but I have been reading your newsletter, so it's very helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's keep in touch. Stay safe to you and your fam.
Absolutely. You stay safe too. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
Status quo.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. That was David Sirota doing investigative reporting now, and obviously worked on the Bernie campaign. I think, I think he was diplomatic in some areas. He's obviously not going to go nuclear on Bernie. But I think him, Nina Turner, and quite a lot of other people on the campaign were very, very much trying to get Bernie to take off the gloves. Very, very much trying to get Bernie to kind of get out of that Senate mold where you say, my good friend, senator from Delaware, and just realize Joe Biden's not any of our friends. And obviously, we could criticize campaigns, but at the end of the day, if the candidate is making the ultimate decisions for the tone, for the messaging, and all that, it doesn't really matter what his campaign manager says or his speechwriter says or his surrogates say. If he's stubborn and not willing to do what needs to be done, we got what we got. So I appreciate David coming on with us. Hope to have him again. He's doing great stuff. And honestly, I think what he said is really true, because part of the issue is you could have great investigative journalists that are independent, but we don't want to just break stories and then nothing happens. We want to break stories and then preferably put people in jail where appropriate, get people fired where appropriate, and produce justice and positive change for people. And the only way to do that is if we have funding. What Jen and I have been missing badly at Status Coup is the funding to advertise. I mean, we just don't have the money to advertise. We don't have a fat cat sugar daddy donor or sugar mama donor. And for example, with the Flint story we just broke, it would have been great if we could have spent a lot of money to advertise so that it could have broke through the media blackout. So hopefully, I like the model David is doing and Matt Taibbi is doing, where they're producing investigative journalism, strong reporting, and asking people to contribute. That's what we've been doing. And obviously it's going to be tougher because, people are pulling back economically right now, but at least for us, we're going to try and keep the lights on and keep moving forward. We are pretty close to $99,000 raised. So if you got a couple bucks today, we'd love to get to $99,000 today, and then we could go forward to that $100,000 goal. The only thing I'll say, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying before I played the interview, is at the end of the day, the progressive movement has something, and we do have leverage. We're just not using that leverage. Shaming does work. If there are pressure campaigns on Nancy Pelosi, if there are pressure campaigns on Chuck Schumer, if there are pressure campaigns on Joe Biden, not just pressure campaigns, but campaigns, if you do not do this, if you do not fight for this now, we are not voting for you. You will not have our vote. I don't give a damn how bad you say Donald Trump is. We are not giving you our vote if you are not out in front right now calling for a rent strike, calling for moratoriums on rent, on mortgages, on utilities, on student loans, all of these things. Just governors saying no evictions right now isn't enough because you still owe the money for the rent. But if we're getting laid off, if we're losing our health care, I can't pay the rent. I can't pay the mortgage. I can't pay the utilities, right? So if there's no pressure on these people, nothing's gonna happen. Karen Webster, $2. Do what TYT did. Sell out the corporations. Karen, don't get me in trouble. You know my thoughts. No, that's not happening. Not happening. We're not selling out to any corporations. But thank you for the $2. So I just think right now there's a huge crisis, and it's not just progressives being hurt. It's neoliberals being hurt. It's conservatives being hurt. It's libertarians being hurt. You have an opportunity for a cross-label, cross-ideology coming together. Victory Gin, shaming doesn't work on sociopaths, Jordan? Well, it worked on Jeff Bezos, and I would say he's a sociopath. What works, why shaming works, it's not because they do things because they've come to see the light. Rich people and politicians do things when they think their power is threatened, when they think their re-election is threatened, when they think their gravy train is threatened. So if you threaten them through public pressure campaigns, through economic divestment, through we're not voting for you, Joe Biden, we're not voting for you, Nancy and Chuck, we're not voting for your corporate Democrat Senate and House candidates. If you are not pushing these things now, if you don't demand it from the Republicans, if you will not fight for us, then no, we're not going to vote for any of you across the board. The fact that Joe Biden is still talking about expanding Obamacare, the fact that Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi are talking about expanding COBRA, no. The gaslighting is over. Over 30 million people don't have health insurance anymore that had it over a month and a half ago. And by the way, even with that employer-based health care, couldn't really afford it completely. So it's not all on Bernie, but it would be a good start if Bernie, with AOC, with Rashida Tlaib, all these people, I don't know what you're waiting for. Is AOC worried because she's up for re-election? You didn't get into this. You said yourself you didn't get into this to keep on getting reelected. Rashida Tlaib, up for re-election. This is good it's good policy, but it's also good politics. So it's not enough Bernie and AOC and Roe to tweet these things that need to happen, to put forward the bills. Obviously, courting the corporate Democrats isn't working because the corporate Democrats agreed to a $4 to $6 trillion bailout of Boeing and the big banks with no strings attached, and now after the fact are crying about the lack of oversight. Well, you approved it. So, yeah, I think right now there's the ideas are there, but there's not the movement and the organizing there. And it's not like you don't have tons of people ready. You have an army, Bernie. You still have it. Some people are mad. Some people are, feeling down, or some people are going a little. Thank you for the $5, Anonymous. Thank you. I think we got 2 Anonymouses, so now 98,732. There's still an army waiting. Yeah, there's some people saying you're a sellout, you're a coward. That's a very small minority. The majority are looking for someone to follow right now because the majority are economically hopeless, economically desperate, and economically frightened. If you haven't lost your job yet, you're probably frightened that you're going to. And by the projections that I talked about at the beginning of this show, they're saying now by June 1st, we could have 3,000 people dying a day here. The projections are now moving from 70,000 dead to 130,000 dead. And CNN's Sanjay Gupta is saying that's conservative. That's an under sales. He thinks it's going to be larger than that. The economic conditions are going to be on par with the Great Depression. So I don't know where is the organizing from our leaders. Tweets are not enough. And frankly, Bernie, I have a lot of respect for you and I love you, but I don't really care that Joe Biden's campaign is allowing you to keep your delegates. I don't particularly care what they say as far as the Democratic Party platform. We've been there before. We've done this dance. Okay? Hillary Clinton, they put a lot of things on the platform. She lost. Honestly, right now, Joe Biden's polling leads over Donald Trump are off pace with how far Hillary was leading him. So now is the time to organize. Now is the time to utilize that list. The people will follow. The people will follow. But you're not leading. And that's a shame. Thank you, James. $5. Good work, Jordan and Jen. So thanks to everybody for watching. We'll be back. What's today? Monday? We'll be back tomorrow. I do think we're going to have an interview with Mike Gravel. We all love Mike Gravel, who is alive and well during this coronavirus pandemic. So I will keep you posted. Hopefully that we'll have that for tomorrow. This guy is like that old record that just keeps on spinning. A great progressive. Would love to hear what Mike Gravel thinks needs to happen, particularly what he thinks, what do progressives need to do? And Mike will call out names if he has to. So looking forward to that. Thank you for the super chats. Arlene Chambers, $5. Great interview, Jordan. Vicky Blair, $20. My fear is states like mine, Vermont opening back up too soon just to avoid having to pay any more unemployment. I have asthma and I'm scared I'll have to go back to work or lose unemployment. Vicky, there are millions of people. Maybe not asthma is their thing, but there are millions of people thinking like you, feeling like I don't feel safe going back to work, but what choice do I have? And by the way, as I said in the beginning, this is going to only extend the economic shutdown because all these governors reopening the economy right now, whatever that means, I don't know how you reopen economies with no customers. You're not going to have restaurants packed across the country when people are getting laid off and people are having their job, their hours cut, benefits cut. It's just going to create a huge influx of positive cases, and we're going to have to do this all again. Stay-at-home orders, shutdowns. It's crazy. Thank you for the $20, Vicky. And let me see where we finish before I go. We are finishing. Oh, so sad. I thought we hit 99,000 today, but still time. You could donate whenever. And obviously we get it. If you can't donate, times are tough for people. If you can donate, the minimum's $5 on GoFundMe. It really does make a big difference. There's me, there's Jen, there's Colin. Jamal is doing some stuff behind the scenes for us on social media. So we do need to keep people fed here, but also, we're trying to grow our Twitter. We're trying to do some marketing things which cost money. So I hope you guys could keep on supporting us, even at $5. Makes a big difference. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned tomorrow. Again, I think we're going to have Mike Gravel, and we'll talk to you soon.